Honestly, it's been so much worse during like all the Disposable chats. It's been so bad.
Fucking Donald Trump over here drinking water with two hands.
You fucking lift that with one hand. Have you seen this?
That is an absolute tankard of water. Nobody can see this. Nobody who's
It's a
currently
mess.
listening to this can see Mr. Jack Davenport's absolute big tankard of water. It looks like an Oktoberfest kind of like tankard. It's one that you would like get a big pint out of.
It's the equivalent of like a lazy boy glass because I only have to fill it once a day.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, if you're all tuning into this, welcome. This is Disposable Podcast. Episode literally however we want to put this out. We've done a whole bunch of these. We've just finished talking about all of our tunes that Disposable have ever released up until
Every single one.
every single one, and the quality dips in and out. So now we're on to the old guest section, and here joining us is me, Oliver, and Tucker, the drummer boy, and we have the boys from Owlshed Studio. We've got Jack Davenport, who I have known for far too long,
Yeah.
and Andrew Scott, who I've known for not long enough, give or take. A little link to the little Disposable history, I guess, is if any of you remember our single Ravenous, which came out in 2017. I don't even know when it came out.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Jack Davenport helped, or pretty much just mixed it for me, really. You kind of just did it for me. I think at that point, I was like, oh, I reckon I can just do this myself. And then I was like, oh, I'll just get Jack to help me. And then I realised that I couldn't. So then it just gradually just became Jack doing it for me.
I think, yeah.
That's
I literally.
There are funny parallels with the story of the owl shed.
All
That's
my
just kinda
lazy
how it
pals.
Lazy, we're incapable.
We're pretty incapable. Like, it's one of those things where as soon as we realise how capable you are, it's like, oh no, I could.
It's
Yeah,
only
it's-
because I
it's-
made the point of cracking software before any of you, until like loads of free stuff started coming out. It's like, oh yeah, Jack's got Sony Vegas that you found somewhere. And
Yeah, you
and now
cracked
you've got
Superior
DaVinci
Drummer for
Resolve.
me twice.
You're free.
Honestly,
It's
it-
a healthy mix of our ineptitude and you being really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
it's you being really good at it and actually liking and enjoying doing it, whereas like I've just now established that like all the things that I thought I enjoyed I actually don't. And
I mean,
but
to
I
be
still
fair,
have to
that
do
just
them.
that sounds like just a phenomenal system that you've got going there. You know what I mean? Just,
Yeah, Andrew sits in front of a camera for an hour talking like an arsehole, and then I get it and make it into a 5-minute video and
With
throw
memes.
memes all over it.
dude, I fucking love those Mapex videos though. Like the Sopranos ending just absolutely kills me.
I've not even seen that yet. Oh my god.
Oh man, that was the highlight.
That's one of my favourite bits of the whole fucking thing. I wanted it just to end right there. Like,
Yeah, I was
Jack-
kind of disappointed that you done like the end credit scene.
that
but
was
still.
like, not to chuck him under the bus, but he says chucking him under the bus. That was Jack's idea, was the credit scene at the end. I just wanted the...
Hey, the credits are worth it. The whole like executive producer, please don't fire me, was an essential fucking part of that video.
You really wanted to get like the kind of
wardrobe by next.
backstory drama there, didn't you?
Although,
to put this
once
into context for anybody listening, Andrew Scott is drummer superior. You studied
not superior drummer, there's a...
You are literally the human superior drummer. He's a Berkeley taught drummer superior who has drummed on many things, including a little album that I did. Thank you very much. And he's been releasing these little Mapex. Well, these things for Mapex, right? They're like big tankard of water is being had, and it's really distracting. But yeah, you're basically just putting out these little lessons for Mapex, which is a drum company. And it's pretty sick to see, because it's like, oh my god, that's my drummer superior pal. But it's like he's like an actual guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
How
look
did
at
that
the.
come about?
I think I feel the exact same way when I see them. I'm like, oh, look at that guy. That guy looks legit. And then there's a reality gap where I'm like, oh, that's me.
Oh, when
do
did I
keep
grow a
having to,
mustache?
like-
That kind of thing.
Yeah, this is keeping me going in my lockdown days.
It's actually
Liam,
pretty
when you-
spectacular.
It's the least
is.
shit mustache I've ever grown.
That's I can see that, man. It's pretty sick.
Myri said the other night that she likes it. So
I mean,
that's
I dig it, like.
Yeah, man.
Liam,
I'd be
I
up for a
reckon
mustache.
you
I
could.
felt like
you
there was a
could-
butt come in there.
No.
So Liam, when you're saying how did that come about, do you mean like the lesson stuff or like?
Yeah, like did Mapex like approach you and go, here, like, can you do some lessons for us? Or is it more like
Pretty much. Like I've been chatting away with Martin, who is the artist rep from Apex, and he'd been putting together. He'd gotten some other guys to do some lessons, and based on the fact that I've got access to, my own studio and all the rest of it, and I have some bullshit to share. He got in touch, and lo and behold, I was chatting with him yesterday. When is this going to come out, by the way, this thing?
Who
no
knows,
idea.
man?
Okay.
Who knows?
Some time ago.
So I have a symbol endorsement coming through quite soon with,
Oh,
fuck
sick.
it, I'll just say it's coming out with Paisty. With
Oh,
Paisty symbols.
sick.
And
That's
That's
very
amazing.
cool.
I was chatting with Martin about doing like an unboxing video for the new Paisty stuff when it eventually comes, hopefully next week. But it was
Oh, it'll be
Martin was
way
just
after
giving
next
me,
week. when
It'll be
this
way
comes
after
out,
next
right?
week, so you will have been like a Heisty endorsee for a long time by this point.
It's old news by now. Like,
Will you fuck off and let me enjoy my water, please?
are you getting any tankard endorsements or?
after this.
Mm.
But yeah, Martin was saying that for like a Paisty unboxing stuff or like Paisty stuff, we may need to dial back the meminess.
Oh,
right.
They may not be so
Appreciate
keen on,
it as much as Mapex.
that's such a shame because like the bad unboxing iDubbbz-esque unboxing that you could have done for Paisty would have just been incredible.
I think there's
Opens
still
the
going to
Paisty
be.
box and there's a bag of shit in there.
You just like chucking like the symbols on and just dead
I think
man
there'll
as
be
fuck.
there'll be plenty of low key stuff. I'm sure that will get slid in somehow or other. Whether there's like a ghost, like a little boogieing ghost somewhere,
There's
or
always a way.
A little
I don't
boogie
know.
and
There's
ghost.
always a way.
It's weird
But yeah, that
talking.
should be-
It's weird, like because you're kind of like at that level already. You probably don't feel it. You probably just feel like some gadget that just does drums. But like to us, you're kind of at that level that we all aspire to be. Like I remember being introduced to you and be like, "Oh, this is Andrew. This is Berkeley drummer." I was like, "Oh, it's fucking Berkeley drummer! Oh my god!" Hello, Berkeley drummer. That was back when you had like purple hair.
Oh my god, I do miss the purple hair.
I miss the purple hair, to be honest. I mean, I'm
I
happy
miss
that
it.
purple hair gave way for the mustache, but
I
you
do-
know we
yeah.
got to
Imagine
remember
both.
what we lost.
I like that thing you were talking about there, Oliver. It's like, and then you get that past that maybe hour or two with him, and it's like, oh no, he's just a cretin like the rest of us.
He's
It's
a
fine.
Oh,
Fucking
totally.
And then it's just a matter of time until the companies figure it out, and then they're like, "It's a fucking idiot. Let's drop him."
I mean, probably not.
No.
I mean, I think there's a level of like everybody's a little bit of a fucking dunce, right? But it's
I mean,
just
one of
it
the
was
most
weird.
one of the most beautiful things about working with musicians is just the proliferation of dunces.
Well, but we're just carnival dunces.
Yeah.
Just bumping into each other and just making strange noises.
And playing
In
chords.
shock.
Yeah.
So like when did you go to Berkeley? First of all, how old are you? But how old are you? What's the timeline? What's the timeline of you?
So
What's the lore? What's the Andrew lore here?
The backstory.
Yeah, fill me in.
So I'm 30 now. I was 30 in February. So I've got a good couple of years on
That's sick.
Yeah, I mean, I did an undergrad at Glasgow. I studied music at Glasgow, which was, like looking back, I kind of wonder how, because I got an unconditional for Edinburgh Napier, the popular music course, and I kind of wonder, like, I wonder how things would have been different had I gone there and learned.
Yeah.
The popular Napier popular music course is the course that both me and Jack got patched from. Well,
No,
I don't
I
know
got
actually,
in.
Jack, you did it for a
And
bit,
me.
did you not? Yeah.
I got in. I just fucked it.
I just assumed that Tucker knew better than to not apply. But whatever. Yeah. Hey man, when you come out of like the college system that we came out of, there's not really any other place for you to go other than Napier, and Napier's already inundated with musicians that they don't want.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, carry on. You nearly got into Napier.
Where's it you're from, like originally, anyway?
From St Andrews.
Well, where are you really from?
We've actually just ambushed you into a deep discussion about who you are as a person.
So you went to Glasgow.
Yeah, I went to Glasgow. I graduated in 2012 with what I thought was a second, but then when I read my actual degree, discovered it was a 2-1, which I did not deserve the amount of fucking about I did. But like, yeah, through that, I mean, my degree was almost like a side project. I did more, like I started touring at that point, started like doing sessions and stuff. I was playing with a band called Firebrand Super Rock, who now are...
Fucking hell, I remember them. I didn't realise you played for them.
Yeah, I was like
Sorry,
I was like the middle guy. I tracked, because there was an EP before me, and then there were 2 records that came out. I tracked both records.
I'm pretty sure it was at their like last ever show.
Oh wow!
I think actually Disposable played their last ever show.
Oh shit!
Really, that's
Small
mental.
world. Yeah.
Sorry,
carry on.
Yeah, and then I moved to Boston because I was dating a lass from Boston, and went to Berkeley while I was there. Fortunately, her parents were very, very wealthy, so helped me out a lot, which
Nice.
I am incredibly grateful to this day that that was a thing. But yeah, then that like relationship dissolved, and I moved back to Scotland around about 2014. I was 24 and had big dreams of like doing music, because that was the thing actually. When I was coming back, I had to drop out of Berkeley, as any self-respecting Berkeley
I mean, that's
does.
it. It's like the rule is go to Berkeley, drop out of Berkeley,
You gotta
become a
drop
big
out.
star. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the cool thing to do. I did 2 semesters and like worked for the 3rd one. But yeah, so when I was coming out, like I was looking for jobs in the States, because I wanted to stay in America, and I had like a job offer for a casino in Mississippi in Biloxi, where like
That's
it was
mad.
like it was a good job. Like it was.
Yeah.
Mr. Trick.
It was really well paid. I was going to be working like 4 days a week or something. And I asked some friends of mine who are from the South, I was like, hey, Biloxi, Mississippi, Scottish guy raised in a pretty sheltered upbringing. Like, would I enjoy it there? Would I be all right? And they'd be like, you're a white man, you'd be okay, but you'd see some shit. And I don't think you'd be okay with that. I was like, right, okay. As well as, like, the idea of, like, and I'm not knocking this for other people who do it, but in terms of, like, trying to figure out just essentially what I wanted to be doing with
totally.
music, playing covers wasn't something that, like, as, like, being, like, the thing that I was doing, wasn't something that I was, like, super sold on.
I feel like you'd probably feel like you were getting locked in to do that for a very long time as well. Especially
like,
if you're then getting paid for it.
Yeah, like if it was in a better place, like I was trying to figure out like how close is it to LA, how close is it to like New York. It's kind of in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, totally.
So if it had been in a city that was a bit more abundant with other shit to do, then it would have been a much more attractive option. But it was at that point where it kind of occurred to me that like being creatively stimulated is like that's the priority for me. And so when I came back to Scotland, it was like, right, okay, I wanna be creative. I wanna do cool creative shit, like, you know, write music and work with other, you know, dunces, and
get this carnival started.
Did the shit that I felt like I needed to do to be able to do that. So yeah, from like I was working in a bookshop in St Andrews for like 3 years while I kind of saved money and started building like the recording studio stuff. That was like what is this? Unlimited minutes.
Yeah, it turns out you can like go into even more depth about your life story now, which is sick.
Buckle in.
We're going all day now.
Brother.
Jack's gonna need a bigger glass.
Yeah, you might actually need to refill that big tankard at some point.
I'm gonna, and then piss.
Yeah, and then do a pee.
I think you could kill two birds with one stone there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But so yeah, that was kind of like the beginnings of, I mean, technically the beginnings of the Owl Shed, because I started like tracking. I started doing remote sessions, like one of which actually just came out from all that fucking time ago. It's a guitarist named Fraser Edwards. It's just put out a record called like, it's not I Am God. Maybe
Is that the power metal one?
Imagine if it was.
I
am a god.
Yeah, that was the power metal one.
Oh, nice.
That was nice
ridiculous.
to hear. It's fucking mad. It's like slightly memey power metal, but it's like, yeah, it's good
That's
shit.
the best kind of power metal.
That's basically just power metal if you think about it.
Yeah.
For context, and Andrew, you've done a whole bunch of like kind of drum playthroughs and videos, which we'll probably link so that we can all see. And just you've done a whole bunch of Animals as Leaders covers and stuff like that. There's like a video that you did in Summer Hall. Was it not? Is it Summer Hall? And you did like an Animals as Leaders thing. Yeah.
Was it Ectogenesis?
That was it. Yeah.
That was in St Andrews. That was in a church hall in St Andrews.
Oh, that's sick.
Oh, wow.
That's
Those
sick.
videos were class.
They're all great. They're all really great.
Yeah, the Ectogenesis one ended up being, like, certainly in Scotland, the one that when people knew of me, it usually ended up being because, oh, you're that guy who did that Ectogenesis video. I'd be like,
That's
yes, I did that.
It is I.
A good example, mixing wise, of why Jack is far superior to me, because I did all that, like the editing and the audio processing for that by myself. But yeah, and then just from there, just fucking twatted about until I am still twatting about. This year's been nothing but twatting about. But just like trying to meet people, just trying to meet like-minded people, and like I guess a lot of people like in a more cynical kind of way, people call that networking, but you know, as we've said a couple of times, the proliferation of dunces is one of the best reasons to work in music and to be around musicians, is because of this beautiful weird bunch of people. And
yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're doing networking right, you're doing it by accident. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, the goal has just been to meet like-minded people, to make as cool music as possible, and to kind of to do that. And then, you know, and obviously there's an awareness of like, the more people I know, the more what's that saying that like something is the mother of opportunity or something? Diligence is the mother of opportunity or something.
Diligence is the mother of good luck, which is also a lyric from the new Protest the Hero album, which is also very incredible.
No fucking way.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, it is. That's why it came to my fucking head.
How good's that fucking album, by the way? It's so good.
That is a good
haven't heard it
record.
yet.
That's a good album.
What album's this?
It's the newest Protest the Hero album.
Yeah.
It's called
I'll listen
Palimpsest.
to it after.
Palimpsest? Palimpsest. Just Google
I'll look
Protest
it
the
up
Hero,
after
bro.
this.
You'll dig it.
I need to listen to that. It was mixed by Simon Grove as well, and
It is, and it's fucking.
he is a talent.
It's so good, man.
It's
It's
really
that's
good.
like their actual live drummer who's playing on it now as well, instead of Chris Adler. I still haven't heard Pacific Rim from Protest the Hero properly.
No.
I know it's good. I know it'll be good. I just haven't bothered. And now Palimp, whatever the fuck is out now, I'm like, here, that's great. I love how kind of like power metal Protest the Hero are. Like, it's that kind of thing where like, this is basically just power metal except a little bit more wheedly woo.
Yeah.
So when did you and Jack officially meet, actually? Because I've known Jack for what feels like my whole life, but it's probably like
Essentially
half
is
of
at
it.
this point.
Yeah, it kind of is, really, yeah. Because I remember first meeting you, Andrew, during that gig that me and Jack did with our band Design. Who were we playing with? We're playing with Arch Echo.
Opium. It was Opium. It was the first one you came along to, was it not?
Yeah.
I don't think I met you. I don't
I
think
think
I
I-
met you, really. Yeah.
Because I think Jamie invited me along to that one.
Yeah, because I don't think I stopped to talk in that one because I was too busy shitting myself, running around like getting all my stuff together because my rig was horrendous. But
Yeah,
Is
I
that the
think
one
I was,
like you had the suitcase with like your fucking
Mhm.
laptop in it? And, like,
yeah,
Yeah, Design was a fucking nightmare. I was a singer as well, and I was just looking at it getting anxiety. I was just like, wow.
yeah, we gave
this
you
is
enough
terrible.
jobs. We had like 2 laptops running with 2 interfaces. That
I know,
during
yeah.
The show, 2 very like temperamental setups as well.
I know, it was very bad. It was very bad. That gig that we did in Monty's, where it was like the desk just wasn't big enough for the amount of like inputs and outputs that we
Well,
needed.
they had
so-
some essential intern guy running it as well, who had no idea that the DI boxes were active ones, and then none of the DIs on stage were working. So I ended up having to route through Jahan from Tiberius's effects loop on his amp just to get live sound. And then
Jahan,
just
like,
as fucking
pretty much,
Nassau
like-
started playing, the bloody stage monitor caught fire.
yeah,
Wait, what?
Yeah, fucking Clark. That was the first time we met Clark.
yeah. It was the first time I met Clark. Yeah,
He was like, "Shit, I thought it was a smoke machine."
it was one of those. I honestly thought it was just some guy's vape, like in
Yeah.
front of me. Like there was like 2 guys like vaping quite heavily, and I was just sniffing, being like, oh, electrical burning. That's a very niche vape flavor. And then I saw that it was actually coming from the big monitor, and then like the sound guy was downstairs probably grabbing like a glass of water, and he came up. But everybody had stopped. The band had stopped playing. It was Nassau, I think. Nassau that
Yeah.
they were on, and they were just kind of like, guys, this doesn't seem all right. And there was maybe a couple of minutes where the sound guy came up and went, "Oh shit!" and then just ran up, fucking took the monitor, which was like billowing smoke, and just kicked the back emergency exit door open and threw it out. And like for the whole gig, the back emergency exit was just open, so it was like the whole street heard the rest of the gig. It was fucking amazing. It's so good.
That is incredible.
Anyway, I think
was the
that was the
tiniest
second Design gig, right? And then the third one was
And
the
then the
Arch
third was
Echo
Garage
one,
Eye.
which is where I
like by that point, I think I'd at least been. So yeah, like I came to because I first started chatting with Jamie, right around like February 2018,
Mhm.
because I remember seeing a post from C2 saying that they were pulling out of Complexity Fest in the Netherlands
oh yeah.
because of like I can't remember exactly how he put it, but he said like drummer related issues. So I just punted off C2 a message being like I know your music pretty well. If you need a guy, I'd be happy to help out. And I think I punted off a similar one to Jamie, just being like, if there's shit that comes up and you need a guy to dep in,
Mhm.
I'd be happy to help out. And which I guess like a slightly forwards move. But done in the
You're done in
spirit of
done in good spirit.
you know,
Like it's
trying to.
With the best of intentions.
aye.
Yeah, like, oh, you need drums, I have drums.
Give me your word.
This is an equation.
You need drum. I am drum.
I am drum. So yeah, I got a message back from Jamie being like, well, actually, I'd recommended you already. I'd seen your Ectogenesis video, and I was like, cool. And yeah, we were just like chatting backwards and forwards, and then that was how I found design, and was like, this is cool. This is like some genty proggy boys in my town. Like, I like genty proggy boys. And then kind of through that, I think Jack and I initially started chatting because we wanted to do like a live session type thing in Summerhall of design.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to figure out how that might work. And then essentially, I remember we took Artemis, my dog, if anyone is wondering, is not familiar with
That's your dog's
I
name?
like how the one thing we've clarified in all of that chat was who your dog is. It's so good.
Yes, Artemis is very important. Artemis is incredibly important.
Like Jamie Black, C2A. My dog is called Artemis.
My dog is called Artemis. It would sound weird, if like, we took Artemis for a walk and I guess the context kind of dictates. Jack and I took Artemis for a walk on the meadows.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think as a couple of people who, because how you get like a kind of creative crush on people essentially, where you're like, that person's really cool, like I want to do shit
totally.
with that person. Like that quickly developed for Jack, where I was like, Jack's a cool guy, like I want to work with that guy, he does cool
Jack
shit.
is a cool guy.
He's
He
a
is,
good
man.
laugh. Even though he can't drink water
He's
with
got
one
a big
hand.
fucking mug.
The sound of you laughing while trying to drink that big tank of water just sounds like you were drowning in your own pride. Beautiful.
So yeah, I mean that was kind of how like essentially we became friends rather than just like some cunts who work together.
It's so weird, man, because it's like it's so intertwined with parts of my life. For like, so Jamie Black, who you mentioned and like told C2 to get you to play drums. Me and Jack have met him at college back in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
That
And
when
that was,
he was built like a normal person.
I mean,
Oh
yeah,
my god, he was so normal, it was weird.
he was quite normal. He almost looks like really thin when you look back, but now, like, yeah. To put in context, Jamie Black is like basically a human tank.
He's a human embodiment of Arthur's seat.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, and with just as the same amount of patriotism as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was if we're gonna go back in time and then eventually we'll like meet back up into the present. Me and Jack and Jamie met each other in Milton Road Julianesque College around that time, and I'd just come from high school, and well, so did you. That's kind of how that fucking worked. And did popular. No, it was just called music, right? It was the HNC music course in Milton Road, and that's how we met. And the one good thing about going to Milton Road was actually meeting you, a kindred spirit. And you did that kind of thing where you're like a creative crush. I had that with Jack pretty much, because at this point you were
A lot of people are creatively crushing on you, Jack.
How's it feel, man? How's it feel, brother?
Well, we just ended up going into like mad competition. Because
Yeah,
it was like,
pretty much.
as soon as you realised that I had this ability to create full-scale music recordings just on my computer, you were like, how the fuck do I do that? And it suddenly we were firing like easy drum and stuff at each other, and then next thing we know, we're both writing 2 EPs a year.
Yeah, that was a weird, mad period of creativity. And Jamie kind of got like swept up in that, really, because we needed a drummer. And it just so happens that Jamie's probably one of the best drummers I've ever fucking met. So it's like, it was perfect. And at that point, he was fairly like up for anything, and then he realised that we were just a bunch of idiots, and then he probably got a bit fucking sick of us, which is also fair enough. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
oh yes.
But that was mental. Like, we've got like me and Jack have got like a project that's coming out quite soon, which is basically just like old songs from those days that we've basically just never really got a chance to kind of get out properly.
Is that the Arbiturg stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when this will come out, but like at this point, you'd hope that Arbiturg would maybe be out. I mean, it's only taken us maybe like 9 years.
But then it's with aforementioned Clark on drums.
Yes,
well.
It is also with Clark from Nassau and Ilo, who we met at the flaming Dunfermline gig that I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like that's kind of like how I started to get good at like knowing how to record and write and stuff, was meeting Mr. Jack Davenport over here.
Well, it's that thing of like you kind of like you see all these, you know, like the wooden things that people have, like the live, laugh, love shit that people have in their kitchens.
Yeah.
And like chatting about like the cheesy slogans that people have in their kitchens. Sometimes they're bathrooms. You get a lot of the ones about like friendship and like the meaning of like connections and stuff, and that like there's that element of, I guess, the friendship that I feel like they're poking at is that friendship, certainly when it comes to like creative circles and so on and so forth, I guess that friendship of like this, like creatively stimulating the people around you and inspiring the people around you, and the energy that you draw from those people. And then on the flip side of that, you have the people who drag you down. I mean, this was like the first experience I really had of this was when I was at Berkeley, and I was crashing on the couch I lived on the couch of some of my closest friends there for about 6 months. And they were some of the most supportive people that I'd ever met, in that, you'd come back with, if you'd done I'd done like a drum video, or I'd played on a session or whatever, someone else came in with some shit that they'd done, and they put it on, and like, the engagement and then the support that would come out of that was completely like devoid of ego, like, oh my god, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd played on that song, or like, oh, whatever it was just total like, dude, this is fucking sick, this is so cool.
It's like genuinely supporting what you're doing.
Yeah, and you build up your friends, and then so with this kind of feeling how that felt, it was a thing that I knew that I wanted to do for the friends around me. And conversely, I knew that I didn't want to like drag people down. You don't want to see someone climbing up and be like, I should be up there, you shouldn't be up there, and then grab their ankle. Like, no, you want to be
here, boy.
Yeah, you want to be like the rocket up your friend's ass. Like, you want to help them in however you fucking can.
Yeah, you want to give them that support enema right there. Like,
the support enema, dude. That's
Support
it.
Yeah. Like a friendship enema.
And
You
like,
don't give me a choice though with it. You're such a cheeky cow sometimes. Like, Andrew,
which one of us?
Andrew, he'll force me into group chats with people to make me network because he knows I won't
like
do it
Forrester
on my own.
Saville?
Yeah.
Forrester Saville, for those who don't know, is probably one of our biggest mixing and mastering heroes, and has done or like bands like Carnival, who are like in the kind of music that we listen to, like one of the main guys. That's mental.
So as we were chatting about, I fucking love this story. I was chatting about this with Jack the other day, and as we're talking about like friendship and building each other up and supporting one another in our creative endeavors, essentially Nick Acker led me to working with Forrester Saville.
Oh, really? That's mental.
Let me break that down.
Wow.
So Nick Acker, just from like the early days of me uploading shit to YouTube and then releasing my own music, Nick Acker, like if I look back, he's in the comment sections being like, "This is fucking sick, dude."
For context, who is Nick Acker?
Nick Acker is one of the goodest boys on the internet.
He's a good lad. I've only spoken to him a couple of times on Insta, and I'm like, "You're sweet. I like."
He's
you.
always deserving of an honourable mention.
Mm-hmm.
He's the drummer in the band Kagu.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he played that fucking Arch Echo show, did he not? Did Design play that, or was that a different show?
No, I think.
That was a C2 show.
Yeah, that was a different one.
That was C2 Standards, Kagu, not in that order. Fuck, who else played that fucking show? Oh, and then there was like another, like an indie band that didn't really fit, with like instrumental prog boys not using any amps.
I mean, that also sounds a little bit like one of the Design shows.
But yeah, so like Nick Acker had been in the comment section for fucking ages, and he at some point there was a guitarist named Chris Shireman who had
we played that show with that Design show.
That's the one.
Yes.
All of these shows happened in the same fucking room as well. It was upstairs.
I feel like I'm just seeing like all the puzzle pieces just trying to come together.
Well, this is it. This is exactly it. So like, Chris Shireman, American guitarist, had gotten in touch, from what I gather, with Nick because he needed a drummer for a tour in the States. Nick couldn't do it, so he passed Chris on to me. I was unable to do it at this point. But, you know, at this point we were connected and we knew each other, and he was coming through town with Arch Echo, and you guys played that show, Design, Shireman, Arch Echo. At which point I met the guy, and then when he came back through supporting Sons of Apollo was when I met like the rest of his band. So Arno, who plays drums also for Uneven Structure, and I know he's done some stuff with David Max and Mitchich. Wow. He also played with fucking Volumes for a little while. Like I think
really? That's
he filled in
really
for a couple
weird.
of dates.
Volumes are a real band, like.
And Matt Ball, who was his bassist, and Matt Ball had fucking played with the Heart Machine of all bands.
So weird, eh? Matt Ball's a nice guy as well, man. He's really
Matt
cool.
Ball is also the goodest boy.
Which is how could be the only reason how he survived playing with the Heart Machine. Some bunch.
So yeah, like I met the guys then, and then when was it? It must have been like 6 months later or something. Maybe a little bit longer. Chris was organizing a tour in 2019. Yes, last year. Last year, it seems so long ago. Like a European
so it
tour.
was.
Supporting,
Is that the one you...
Yeah, supporting Uneven Structure, who
Arno
plays for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was a really... the tour ended up being cut down short. But... So we ended up doing 5 shows. Is it 5 shows? 2 in the Netherlands and 3 in the UK. And this was an incredible tour, like socially, because this was where, because Arch Echo were on that tour, so I got to see those guys again. Vola were on that tour,
who were great, who were really, really good.
Those guys. Jack's repping.
Jack is doing the rep.
And Adam.
I was trying to go like, where have I heard that name before? Then realised
it's right in front of you, bro.
Subliminal marketing.
And yeah, like got to hang out with Adam, who's Vola's drummer, who is a good homie, and obviously hanging out with the Uneven Structure guys. And then when we came to the UK, Chris and I were being driven by Simon Garrett, who books the shows, who books the bands for TechFest.
Oh, nice.
And when we played the London show, Mike Mallion came through because Mike had contributed drums for Chris's record.
So Mike Mallion is the drummer from Monuments on and off, and has played drums for Disperth.
Yeah, Disperse. I mean, he played for. I first saw him play with David Maximicic and Disperse.
I keep forgetting he played with David
supporting
as well. That's
Pliny.
sick.
Fuck, who did he play for? He played on a. I saw him again. It was Sarah Longfield, or the Fine Constant, Andy James, and like Angel Vivaldi. I think he might have been playing drums for Andy James.
Oh, that's sick.
But yeah, so I met Mike that night, and Mike is also the goodest boy.
What a good boys in this story.
So
Yeah,
many
lot of
good
good boys.
boys. And yeah, so like Mike came through, and I had actually forgotten before the set that he had programmed drums for one of the tracks that we were playing that night. If
I remember you mentioning that,
before
actually.
the set, I'd have been shitting myself the appropriate amount rather than the amount which was not very much. But then after
totally.
that, so like I came off stage and Mike was like, "Hey, I really like the way that you interpreted my drum parts," and I was like, "Oh fuck, right, yeah,
God.
sure, you wrote those." And the rest of the tour happens, and then it fast forward only like a couple of months, and then I get like a couple of voice messages, like right after Christmas, of Mike being like, "Hey, Ro from I Built the Sky is, we've asked him to come and tour with us in February. He needs a band." Initially, it was going to be Matt Ball playing bass and me playing drums. But Matt wasn't able to do it, so that was when I got also a very good boy,
Who I've not
Erkens.
actually met, but
Werner
me and him
is-
are in a video doing a Meshuggah song.
There we go.
That's how
dude,
you go.
I fucking love that cover.
So then long story short, I go and do the tour with I Built the Sky, supporting Heart of a Coward and Monuments, and then after the tour, Ro is doing a track. I guess the track will probably be out by this point, so it's got
Probably will be, yeah.
Andy Sizik singing. Ollie Steele has a guest spot. Yeah Boy on drums, and Forrester Saville like mixing and mastering, producing. At which point, so when Ro was like, "Right, okay, I'll chuck together the group chat, can you invite Jack?" Usually when I'm inviting Jack into a group chat with somebody, I'll give him like a little bit of a heads up, just to be like, "Yo, here's this person, it'll be, meet the person. Good boy, this will be a good boy, meet good boy." This time I didn't, just because I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, totally.
And it was really funny.
Because I immediately got told not to make the stupid jokes.
Aye, totally. To put it into real context, it's like me and Jack have been listening to Carnival for fucking years. It was Carnival, one of those bands that where it's like if you like Tool, but you've ran out of Tool songs, which at that time you probably had, because it would be another further 10 years before Tool would release maybe like 7 tracks or however. So Carnival were kind of like, man, that first Carnival album is fucking beautiful. And like, was it Forrester who did Sound Awake, right?
I think so, yeah.
The first two.
Yeah,
Samantha and Sound Awake.
he definitely did Sound Awake. Sound Awake is like
That was
pretty-
game changing.
yeah, it was a pretty seminal album for nerds like us to just be like, wow, this music is like a perfect mix of everything that we love. Like,
But
it's
he pops up
spacey.
all over the fucking place.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, when I listened to the language by the Contortionists, I suddenly realized, like, right, okay, Sound Awake, that's what they're doing.
Exactly. Like,
And
so
then,
many like prog boys now take from Carnival. Like, they take. I mean, evidently you can like. It's understandable though the influence that the first albums had, because it's a lot rockier and it's a lot groovier, and almost kind of new metal in a way. But Sound Awake kind of like was really like kind of, well, we're just gonna basically do like prog metal Radiohead now, and like all these like kind of more modern bands now. Probably even Periphery as well to some extent, but like I reckon definitely Tesseract as well, even though they're probably around at the same time, are all kind of
Fucking
doing
that-
relatively
that-
same thing.
That bass tone, like,
Exactly, the bass tone alone, man, is
Oh my
is
God.
just is
Yeah.
is game changing, and it's
That-
on an album that like makes you, is just, it takes you on like, it's such a journey, and it explores so much musical ground. So yeah, that's Forrester Saville is definitely the guy who mixed Sound Awake. So to then put Jack into a conversation, a Facebook chat with Forrester Saville, a guy that we've kind of been idolizing for years at this point, right?
Yeah.
Kind of just like, because I remember when we were doing, I think it's our old band in Pleo.
Yes.
That like, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think the Disposable guys kind of knew me before, but in Pleo was like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, it's all. We kind of recognize him. He's in this band in Pleo. Anyway, I reckon we were like, what's Forrester Saville doing? How can we do what Forrester Saville does? How can we, like, especially in design as well, like when we started that, it's like, well, how Forrester, who's this guy, Forrester Saville? Oh, he did Sound Awake. Oh, amazing. How do we make our stuff sound like Sound Awake? It's like, well, Forrester's doing this. Forrester can do this. So to then put Jack into like a Facebook chat with Forrester Saville, I can only imagine Jack just being like, what's going on?
Oh shit. And then to be told that I had like a really basic task that I needed to do, but like in that context is just like, I don't know where to start. What if it's not good enough?
I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this.
But this is actually one of the things that I love and respect about Jack so much, is that is essentially that, you know, Jack is hungry. Like, you know, he's hungry.
I'm always hungry.
In a lot of ways. He's a hungry boy. But like, there's like chucking somebody in, as funny as it is, to a group chat with one's heroes. Like, there are a lot of people who would kind of like shy away or kind of back down, or would kind of like, I mean, the reason I did it was because I knew and had confidence that Jack would, whatever it was that you know, Forrester needed, in like, because it was processing drum tracks, because we were recording live drums for this track, for this single, in the shed, and then we were sending all that shit off to Forrester for mixing and all the rest of it. That I knew that Jack, whatever it was that Forrester needed, that Jack was going to absolutely fucking slay it. And by the looks of it, he did. In the shit that we sent off to Forrester, there were no revisions. There was nothing whatsoever. And
Yeah.
I, like, if I were a betting man, I would have put money on that being what was going to happen. But you know, there were no one was running a spread on that, so I was like, I've got to derive fun from this somehow. Let's chuck Jack into this group chat.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
But that's kind of it. Whatever these things, these like, you know, whatever it is that Jack has to do and needs to learn, or if there's something, that he just fucking does it.
You tend to always done that, Jack. I mean, like, there's jobs that you probably don't even really want to do, or just kind of like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to learn that. You just kind of do it, and then I'm always in the background, just hovering over your shoulder, just kind of huffing that secondhand knowledge.
And
it's
there's so many things as well where like we do everything internally. Like, none of our projects are under any sort of label or management, so we have to do everything. So when it's like, oh, I suppose we need some sort of animated music video, we don't have any money, I guess I'll just do it.
It's always been like that. I mean, but it was one of those things where I think the conversation, I think a lot of this started in Pleo, and this was like kind of first college band, but for me it was like the first real band that I thought was actually any good. I now know better, but
I enjoyed in Pleo. I don't know where this is coming from.
He's just sad because he never released the album.
I've been like, I mean, I hear the album back, the album that we never released, and
send me that album immediately.
No.
I sent it to Billy. I sent it to Billy when he had to like self-isolate for a couple of days because we thought he had like the big COVID, and I don't even think he was even that impressed because he never said anything back. He was just kind of like, oh, thanks.
I know, why did you give it to him? Like, give it to someone that would have had the reaction. And literally, Liam would be the only guy that would give you the reaction we're looking for.
I mean, Billy liked him Pleo apparently as well. Evidently, not as much. So fuck him.
Never.
More importantly, fucking Pleo, because they're never coming back.
No, never did.
But anyway, yeah, I
We've
mean,
got enough bands
we
now.
were learning that because like we did a whole bunch of that in Jamie's. Well, we did all the demos, and then we were kind of gearing up to do the actual recordings in Jamie's basement, his little drum thing. And you basically just kind of perfected the sound out of that, and just kind of, because we did the first recordings with shitty mics, and even then it sounded not that bad at all.
Well,
And like a little desk, little tiny little interface where like
That's
one
what
of the
final
channels
recordings were.
just sometimes just stopped working, and one of
yeah,
my
we had a
mics just decided to
7
stop
or
working.
8 mic channel setup.
Yeah. It was one of those ones, and pretty sure my mic, which I still have in that cupboard, my condenser. If too much air pressure got on it, it just stopped working. It's one of
Yeah,
those things
died
where it's
for an
like
hour.
if you were really genteel with it, it would sound great. But as soon as you went like right in front of it, it would just.
That
So it
sounds
would
like such a specific problem to have.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a common issue with mics if you handle them real bad. But it was a pretty cheap and old mic, but it sounded pretty good. But yeah, I mean like that's what we were dealing with, and even just like trying to like sound treat the room, but with like cushions and stuff like that. Oh, and like the first ever room mic that we had, where we
I had
like,
that muted
oh, you silly boy,
the whole time. So when I went back and like looked at the stuff and tried again, because I did this for the design stuff. Like we set that room mic up for the design stuff. But
The
I had it
design
muted.
album, the EP Epitome of Progress by Design, available on SoundCloud or Bandcamp.
Please don't listen.
SoundCloud, imagine putting fucking something on SoundCloud in the year of our Lord 2020. Sorry, I meant Spotify.
Still there.
But yeah, I mean that was pretty much the same conditions. Maybe
but with the
slightly better
Tascam
mics
instead.
and a little bit more know-how yeah, in common
Much
sense.
better mics. At that point, I'd bought my that PG Alto drum mic set. So at that point, we actually had we had an actual 57. We had a 57 clone. We had the big Beta 52 clone. We had the pencil overhead mics, and then we had your condenser, I think, which we used as the outside room mic.
So,
but at the
like-
time of doing the Amplio stuff, we had 2 large diaphragm condensers that we managed to source between us. And then
I think one of them was like our pal Liam Nelson's, who was also like the guitarist in Implio as well. He had the
Yeah.
Rode, right? That was the Rode.
the MT1A or something.
Something like
The
that.
one that
yeah.
you've got, Liam, that I can see.
This boy
Mm.
right
That
here.
That guy.
And
yeah, we
mine,
had one
and
of
then
those,
yeah,
and
my
then
one
your
that didn't
guy.
work. Yeah.
And then we literally had like a 57 that we'd bought, and that was the snare top. So our overheads.
That was
were
like one of the two
okay.
things we bought with the band account, right? One of them was
Yeah.
like the desk, and the other one was the 57.
Mhm.
I love that. I remember us being like really excited that we'd got a mic. Well, you were. I was like, yay.
But arguably, the only good sounding thing on those recordings is the snare.
It was weird, man. It's weird, like thinking about like how we mic'd that kit up. When I say
Yeah,
we
we had,
it was
like-
basically you. It was like we had 58s on pretty much everything apart from the snare. I mean, that was a
And they
57.
weren't even 58s. They were like a collection of whatever vocal mics we had lying around.
I know it was
That
nuts.
So,
the
like-
Sennheiser guy.
So with the Amplio stuff, was that your first foray into recording real drums?
That was the first time doing proper multi-track drums, DIY. For
All
sure.
right, okay.
Um,
So everything before that was like Easy Drummer and
some on my music, yeah. But then being at college, there was a lot of times where we would be working in the studios in the college. So like the Amplio EP was recorded drum-wise in Edinburgh College studios. And then there was one of my releases I did where half of it was done by Jamie in one of the studios as well.
all right.
So those were the exceptions. But yeah, most of the time it had been Easy Drummer, but obviously we were getting kind of bored of that because we had Jamie. It was like, come, we actually just record this guy.
Jamie,
Yeah.
I mean, like Jamie's at that time he was. We wanted to actually have like an actual band, really, didn't we? Because we'd spent so long in our bedrooms being like, we can like do these bedroom
Yeah.
recordings, but it was gotten to the point where it was like, well, can we not just be a band now? Like we've got all the skills now to just kind of do it ourselves, Can we not just like bypass all of that stuff? I mean, it's like it wasn't until joining Disposable that I'd ever really because when you guys were like, oh well, we send stuff off, we save money up to record into a studio, and then we save even more money up to then send it away to get it mixed and mastered. That was that concept was honestly so fucking alien to me. It was just sort of like, why the fuck would you do that? I can do it. And then I did it, and then instead of doing it, I just made Jack do it instead.
Same here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No way.
But that was it. I mean, it's like we were kind of like, it's like we don't have money, and everything that we'd been doing in our bedrooms sounded really good, at least to our ears, to the point where it's like all we can really do now is improve upon this. But then how do we like actually become a band? Because at this point because I remember joining Implio, and like you guys had been gigging quite a lot, like with Alana. Implio were really cool with Alana. Alana's like a really good vocalist. Implio kind of sounded like a smoother, not rocky Incubus, but with like Alana
with poetry on top.
With Alana doing this like really cool, like kind of poetic kind of weird. I don't want to say hippie because implying that hippie sounds derogatory in any way, but it's not. But like that kind of weird, like spacey kind of psychedelic thing over the top. And then she left like right before a whole bunch of gigs that you got to do, and you guys were like, oh, I guess okay. It's interesting how Implio started actually, because Implio was basically just like our good buddy Liam Nelson's graded unit, was it not? Like he was basically just created a blues band, and then from then on it just somehow molded into like an alternative rock band or something.
Starting to verge on prog.
I know, yeah, it was so weird. It was so weird. It was like when you're looking back on
it. I miss Implio, man.
I mean, I
don't.
I miss feeling like we could do anything. I missed feeling because we were so. We had a weirdly consistent work ethic.
We were all at college or school, so none of us worked. So we literally, at any given Friday or whatever day we were practicing, almost the whole band left one building at the same time.
Yeah.
Which now
true.
is just fucking impossible.
Which now is just like it's so hard to imagine that, because all our lives are just so fucking nutty.
Well, with the COVID shit, that's actually one of the weird like side effects of like at the drum shed, the Owl Shed like drum shed jam thing that we put together. Like wouldn't have been possible to do most other time because suddenly you had all of these musicians who
have a lot of free time now.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's mental. It's mental to think of that, especially if you're an actual musician, who gets paid to do musician-y type things. You're busy all the time, but if you're like me, who's doesn't get paid to do musician-y type things, I work in hospitality, and my calendar is just all over the fucking place. So it's just sort of like, oh, what's your shifts like looking like this week? It's like, don't know. I don't know. I could be working like 10 hours or 13 hours. I could be off, but I could also just be knackered from working those 13 hours, so you won't see me.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I forced myself to do the job that I'm in now. Because that was purely from a standpoint of, this is regular now, I know when my free time is.
What is your job again? Just for the peeps.
For context, I am a project worker with a transitional education support service for adults with learning disabilities.
It's probably the most grown-up job that way in the room.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because it's like I would look at you and you would probably be like the most immature person in. I mean, we're hard. I mean, it's close. It's close, right? It's very close. But like,
you haven't
it's
seen
interesting.
Work, Jack. He is organized, compassionate, just a totally different guy.
Well, all of his experiences of like working with adults with learning difficulties really helps him with me.
Yeah, I'm really patient.
He's so patient. It's the bullshit that I'll chuck at him. Like maybe on a bi-weekly basis, I'll phone him up and be like, "Hey Jack, I've got a project that I want to do. I just want to check real quick that you're keen for it before I go.
Yes, you're fine.
It involves 12 drummers and you have to mix them all.
That was another case of like chucking Jack at the deep end of like, oh yeah, by the way, Adam out of Vola is going to be sending through drum stems, so try not make him sound like a cunt, eh? But that and like the Mapex shit where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do like a bunch of Mapex lesson videos. Do you wanna edit them? And I specifically asked him to make fun of me via the editing. Like just fucking lay into me.
Good job, Jack. Good job.
Yeah.
And,
it got to the point that Martin from Mapex was like, "Does he hate you?"
One of the guys, like, I think it might have been Martin's boss or one of the guys that Martin works with. Saw the videos and Martin had relayed to him that like, Andrew asked Jack to make fun of him via the editing, and Martin's boss was like, wow, he must really hate him.
But can
you guys actually get on?
This comes back to that whole like kind of looking back thing. If somebody had turned around to me in like the first year of college and gone, by the way, you'll be editing spoopy ghosts into a Mapex video in like a few years time, I was like, get the fuck. Not to mention that you'll be editing drums for Forest DeSalvo within like the same couple months. Like no, nuts, no chance.
It's mental though. I mean, like, who fucking knows? I mean, it's like I didn't think I'd be touring Europe at all, ever. Yeah. And then me and Tucker did it like last year.
God. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty sick, man.
That was
pretty
well
sick.
Fun.
I finally felt like I had some like tour chat to offer to like an actual musician who had toured. It felt like I was just
yes,
sort of,
I've done that.
I was just like, oh yes, I did that once. Oh, another country. Wow, I've done that.
Still green on that front, boys. Sorry.
The thing is though, it's like you've kind of made up for it and just like basically being the guy who makes sure that everything sounds so good to the point where we can do that. Which goes into like the fact that it's like Disposable's like EP that we've been working on for a while. We were literally about to go into the studio into Owlshed with you guys
that
to
was
record.
Such a bollocks, man.
Yeah, it
was
bad.
it fuck? I heard you were relieved.
What, me? I was, to be honest.
It was kind of relieving in that like, I'll not get a deadly virus, but in that it was like, oh, we've got the studio booked, and the whole country's went into lockdown.
It was literally like the
Cool, I
day
guess.
of, I'm sure that we were planning on going in, where my work had closed, and I was like, I can't rightly go to the studio
Yeah.
when I can't be at work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a weird day. I did not like that.
It was really weird. It was like that was
Just when things were like properly starting to kick off.
That was that was a dark time, because that was when, I mean, I'd just been back like a week or two from the I Built the Sky tour, and I was gearing up for a bunch of King stuff, and then I just remember over the course of like 1 or 2 days,
Bing, bing.
watching everything melt, and just sitting on the couch, like looking into my phone, just scrolling through Facebook, and like musicians, like booking agents, front of house guys, just everybody just chatting about like it's been cancelled or postponed into the autumn, which
the
autumn shit is starting to
it's just getting further pushed back.
Like the King stuff for the October has just been pushed to October 2021.
Yeah, for next year.
So I will not be playing any more gigs this year.
No.
Which is
I mean, we played one
other
gig this year,
existential
and it
crisis.
wasn't even a full
And
lineup.
Backcharge wasn't even there.
I know, yeah. We played one gig, and Jack had tonsillitis and couldn't even play, which is weird. I remember those days, man. I remember like the week leading up to it, where like everything that was going on in my life just kind of was slowly stopping. Like I remember being at work, so I work in like a theater. One of my works is like in a theater, and I work in like a big conference hall. That's like my work. So I remember like going in to do like kind of general maintenance and stuff, just to kind of like fulfill my like part-time contract kind of thing. So I'm going in, but I'm not really doing anything. It was like me, my bar manager, and the front of house manager just sitting in like this empty theater, essentially looking at the news and being like, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, it's like this kind of thing where, like, do we know if I'll be here next week? And it's like, I mean, you can come in, but everything's cancelled. Like, nothing will be happening. So we'll probably have to get you in just to kind of fulfill your contract in, but nothing's going to happen. It's like, okay, well then what happens then? It's like, I guess we just won't be going to work. I guess we won't be allowed to. It's like, that's so weird. So that happened every week for like 4 weeks right up until lockdown.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm just like going through, it's like, well, are we going into the studio? Is it like feasible to do this? Like, it's just, yeah, fucking mental. It's just so strange.
One thing I will say though is like, I have thought like the Owl Shed are actually handling the whole world falling apart pretty well, because you still seem to be like churning out a lot of videos. And
you're in a lucky situation, I guess, because you live round the corner from the studio, Andrew. So,
I live like a solid, like a stone. Someone with a good arm could like
totally. I mean, like if you got rid of all the buildings in front of the studio, like you would hit the studio. I could probably do that, and I have a shit arm, so I reckon I could probably do it.
So it's incredibly fucking fortunate that I live, and I guess the situation that I'm in at the moment I see as a direct result of a number of neuroses and insecurities that like have led me to kind of inadvertently prepare for this type of thing. Where
I'm glad that worked out for you.
It's a general philosophy of mine, like optimistic pessimism, like plan for the worst, hope for not the worst, i.e. so having a studio right down the road, a studio that I can walk to, and having enough equipment to be able to continue working, despite lockdown or whatever.
Roping in a guy who's good enough to mix and just send stuff to as well.
Yeah, maintaining a good relationship with my internet provider, and But that's literally been like sanity, like preserving stuff, which has kind of gone through a number of different layers of adjustment, I guess, of like, all the gigs drying up and essentially just trying to figure out what the fuck to do with all this time I've got, which as of actually just this morning, I've kind of figured out maybe kind of the next step for me, which I think Jack will be really enthused about, which is learning more about like music marketing.
Finally.
There it is.
I've been telling you that could be your one job. Hit the drum and sell it.
Oh my god.
So yeah, like that's kind of like, because as I say, like, I mean, was it like a week ago, maybe a little bit more? We got through on the King band chat that it looks like the October gigs are going to be pushed back. Which then after that I was like, because that was like something of a goalpost for me. I was, you start seeing like, okay, so the shit's not so bad. Like the number of cases is dropping, despite the public's best efforts by the looks of things.
To the contrary.
Like what Scotland has gone X amount of days without any COVID deaths or something, like, you're hearing these little optimistic bits of news and thinking like, okay, so this is in October. If we're in like, mid-June, end of June now, July, August, September, in 3 months. I mean, in 3 months, either things could be a fuck ton worse or they could be a lot better. It's kind of one or the other. And I was beginning to hope that maybe, just fucking maybe, these gigs might work. And then lo and behold, like they've been pushed back, cueing a fresh existential crisis of like, shit, well now I have like 9 months essentially from now until like my next booked gig.
To just fill time, really.
Which is, I need something to do. Otherwise I will just convert to like not getting out of bed in the morning. Like I need a reason to get up. And then just this morning, it kind of like, I'm finishing up a bunch of Owl shit, a bunch of Leviathan Owl shit. I've been thinking more about teaching and trying to figure out online how to kind of do that and help people, and also maybe make some money out of it would be nice. But then, you know, I was scrolling through my feed, and then I stumbled across this video of like a marketing company, Indiepreneur. I don't know if anybody else is getting hounded by ads from those guys.
I know, but I will now. Thanks for mentioning it.
Yes.
And
Everyone's
there was
phone just heard that.
there was a really good there was a really good video of a guy chatting about his marketing plan for like a song from like zero fan base, and how in a couple of months he went through these steps of different like ways of using ads and all the rest of it. And you know, I enjoy selling shit. Like I'm a bookseller as well. I've worked in book selling for the past 5 years or so, and really love it. I work also in my partner's bookshop, Lighthouse Bookshop, big up. And so I feel like the marketing thing is, well, it's a kind of like my story of learning music has been literally from like the drums upwards, learning how to create music. Like I started with the drums, and then I'd always loved composition, so I started learning when I was like 16 or 17 how to play the guitar, which then led me into stuff like harmony and learning songs and how the chords work together, which then led me into melodies. How do melodies now sit on top of that? At the same time as like, well, I got to record this shit because I don't know people to play this shit for me, so I have to do it myself. Which also kind of branches off into like the social direction of like, I want to meet as many like-minded people as possible. And I feel like it's another natural evolution of like, okay, so now that I've recorded this shit, I need to know how to release it and how to do that bit. You can't just kind of punt it out into the world. But, you know, the world's a noisy place. No one's obligated to listen to your shit.
It's also, it's a noisy place, but at the same time, all the rules are constantly changing. But now, like, this big curveball has put everything kind of in question. And it's almost as if, like, you've, how do I describe it? It's almost as if you've got to wait for, like, before the dust can settle, we've still got to try and figure out how the fuck to still keep ourselves relevant and keep ourselves going. But until the dust can settle, then we don't have a clear path on where we need to go. Which is kind of really shitty, but it's also kind of fine. I don't know. It's weird. It's like we don't know anything. We don't really know enough. But I suppose what you're saying is you got to learn as much as you can. That you definitely think you're like, well, I still definitely will need to know how to do this. I still will definitely know how to need to do this. The circumstances in which I will do these things are changing, but like the skills are still going to be relevant. I guess.
Yeah. Well, as I chatted about before, like when I was coming back from America and realizing this very important thing about myself, that like that stimulation is paramount. And then like understanding this and accepting this was instrumental to survival, essentially, just staying alive. Like, right, okay, this is a thing that I need to like essentially fuel myself. So I need to provide it for myself in abundance. And it's just kind of it's part of that. It's understanding that I need that like fulfillment thing, and usually half the battle is just figuring out what the fuck it is.
I mean, God knows I don't know what it is. I mean, I feel like I go through like several phases of thinking I know what it is, and then it just kind of fizzles out, and it goes like, I can't face whatever that thing is now. I need to find something else.
Yeah. For me, it's balance. Like that's the one thing that if I don't have balance between different areas of my life, I don't do too well. So like even at the moment, there's so many production things going on, and there's so much work coming our way that I'm chipping away at. But I have to make a point at doing something creative while that's going on.
Oh yeah.
I see how well you balance that tankard between your right and your left hand.
See, that's just good practice, Andrew.
It's weird, man, because it's like I've been having this weird battle with creativity for a while, because like I've got like this solo album coming out, but it's kind of been which you guys have helped me with, which I'm very grateful of. But like it's weird. It's like I don't know why I do it, and I don't feel like I want to do anything creative right now. I don't feel like, or rather, I feel like I want to. I've got things in the back of my mind of things I would like to do, but then when it comes
is it that you want to do it?
It's pretty much, yeah, that's it. I want to be able to justify having, I don't know, all these guitars and my speakers and stuff, and having like this tiny audience that I personally have created, and also making use of like the audience that I now have with Disposable, and making use of like the people that I have in my life that helped me create. But then it's like I just look at it and kind of go like, it's almost just like, what are you gonna do now? And it's like, well, I don't really know. I kind of just wanted to fucking wank and go to sleep, really. Or like, it's like, I don't know. It's like it's almost just like that expectation of like, I should be creating now, or like,
yeah.
It's not even that you should be creating now. It's like you can do all the creativity you want. It's like, cool. Now that you've said that, I don't want to do any of it.
Well, that's why I've spent the last fucking week playing Dishonored. Like, I've done, like, since pretty much the text came through saying that the King stuff is probably going to be postponed. Like, I've spent most of that time on the couch playing video games. Like, just literally, I've not played a drum in that time. And a lot of it has just been, I can see Molly in the background. A lot of it is just, and as you say, like, there's all this shit that I could be doing. But at the same time, like, I know that I need to give myself space to want to do it. Because if I try and do it when I don't want to do it, especially if it's the creative stuff, then it's going to end up being not as good as it should be.
I think if you need to, like, force it as well, it just kind of comes across as, like, I don't know, like, uninspired, or, like, you know what I mean? It's just...
Like, I've done it enough times where, like, if I've not... like, obviously there's a big discipline element to this kind of stuff of, like, honing your craft and the stuff that you need to do to get better, essentially. But at the same time, there's a balance of, like, I've tried to write a song, or I've tried to practice, or I've tried to do certain things when I've not been in the right mind frame to do it enough times. I ended up just pissing away like 5 or 6 hours and getting like nowhere, essentially. Where if my body, if my soul, if my brain is telling me, like, you need to fucking rest, then that 5 or 6 hours will be far better spent resting. So then, you know, the next day I'll get up feeling better, drink a fucking liter of coffee, and then at that point I'll be like, right, I am fucking charged up. I'm gonna do this stuff.
The one thing
and then I can get wads of work done in fucking half an hour or an hour.
I think it's like the thing that I'm trying to deal with is the fact that, like, I'm not dealing in terms of hours or days. I'm dealing in months. I'm dealing in like months of like not wanting to do anything. And then the kind of bursts of creativity I have, or maybe like not even a week, and then I have a week of like feeling like the person that I used to be, which was kind of when me and Jack allude to this, where we're just kind of like, back in those days we were writing and releasing material like non-stop because we were so excited. And now it's like I just don't relate to that person anymore, and to the point where I only have maybe a couple of days worth where I feel like that same person. But then it's just months at a time where I don't do anything.
Just Kids by Patti Smith?
I haven't.
It's fucking great. It's one of the best for anybody who wants to do like anything creative. It's one of the best books I've ever read. Like, I read it when I was like 19 or 20 or something. And it chats about her, I mean, it's her early life, and it kind of ends around about where she starts getting like famous. And it talks a lot about her friendship and relationship with the artist Robert Mapplethorpe. But it also, what it does is she chats a lot about the jobs that she had at the time of certain bits, how those jobs affected her creativity, and her satisfaction with the things that she made at those points. So for a book, for anybody doing anything creative and learning to understand and to observe like the ebb and flow of that like creative will, it's a fucking beautiful book. I can't recommend. I think it might help.
That's going on the big fat list of books that I'm going to get.
Just some like.
What was the name of it? Just Kids.
Just Kids by Patti Smith. Yeah.
Patti Smith.
You can order it from the Lighthouse Bookshop.
Hey.
That's sick, because I actually want to like buy something from the Lighthouse.
It's over.
I can't understand when 3 people speak at the same time.
I know, that was like the first. Amazingly, that's the first time that's happened.
Fucking great.
Quite as badly as that happened.
Bit of chaos.
I'm just gonna let that mess just kind of happen and just dissipate, and then yeah.
And then we'll try again.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I found.
What were you gonna say, Jack?
I had a similar thing, you know, like when I was staying in Aylmoor and down in Leithways, my creativeness was terrible. Like,
but you had a tough year as well at that, like.
Yeah, like
it's like last year was not an easy year for you. I remember.
No, it was shite. And then, yeah, but then I sussed out what I needed, and like I figured out for me what I need if I'm ever going to be in a creative headspace is to always be sat next to another person physically when I'm doing that kind of shit.
Yeah, I'm the same.
That's why like the design writing stuff, I would never do sat on my own, except if I was tweaking stuff that I had done with someone else like the previous day. Like there was never a day where I sat down on my own and went, I'm gonna write that fucking tune, except for one.
Kind of comes back to what you were talking about earlier, Andrew, of like being in a group of friends that actually like encourage you to do things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like,
when I joined Disposable, it was really nice to just not so much have you should do this, but just to be able to turn around to someone and be like, is that good? And to people, somebody was like, huh? Yeah, that's good. Do that. It's like, okay, cool. Because when you're by yourself, it's like almost as if like, oh, is that good? But there's no one to like tell you it's good, so you're just like, somebody tell me.
Analysis paralysis.
Oh my god.
Or whatever it's called.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like, somebody tell me.
Well, that's usually what I use time for. Like I'll write something and then let it sit for like 24 hours, a week, a month. And kind of like the person I will be at that point will be enough of a different person that I can listen to that thing and be like, and past Andrew, you're a fucking genius, or past Andrew, you're a fucking idiot. That was one of the.
That's such a trippy analogy, man. But
I know, yeah.
That was one of the things about. There are 2 things I learned at Berkeley that I didn't expect to learn at Berkeley. One of them is relevant to this, and one of them is relevant to shit that we were chatting about before, about like recording in sketchy environments and like maybe with like substandard gear and all the rest of it. The first one was how fucking competitive it is, but not between other people. Obviously there is an element of competition. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of that shit, but that has to get weeded out quite quickly in that, you know, if you're a bassist, drummer, guitarist, singer, like, you can't swing a cat without hitting somebody who is as good or probably better than you somewhere. So the thing that generally sets people apart is if you're halfway through a recording session at 2 a.m, how much of a cunt are you? If the answer is a lot of a cunt, you're probably not going to get called so often. If the answer is not a cunt, or you're very pleasant to be around, then you're going to get called more often. But that element of like competition, the most intense sort of sensation of it is with yourself, is like that desire, that pull to be better, and that kind of that social element of being around people who inspire you to be better, not because you're trying to outdo them, but because you're trying to keep up with them, because you're trying to like almost do justice to or you want to do your friends proud by doing well. So, you know, if I like when I was drumming on some of Jack's stuff, like there's that element of like ambition to like, all right, I want to do him proud. Like
I did sell it as a rock No, sorry.
He told me it was like the Foo Fighters, but they're fucking weird time signatures and accents all over the fucking
like
place.
Nothing like the
5'4".
fucking Foo Fighters, mate. What
a
are you
cunt.
talking about?
To be
I had to
fair,
get him to
there
do
is
it
a design. Is there not like a design riff that's literally Best of You, but in like 7/8?
Yeah. That was that one I put on Instagram.
But
Oh
so
my
there's
God.
that element of like personal ambition of, yeah, like, you know, there's that saying like you never want to be the smartest person in a room because
You'll always have something to learn.
you want
Yeah.
to surround yourself with people that you can learn from, and also people that you can you know, that you can get feedback off of, whether it's like an energy thing or like literal feedback, like, here's this thing I made, is it shit? And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was the importance of maybe not the importance of, essentially the amount of shit recordings I heard coming out of Berkeley studios when the mic locker, like, you could sell the mic locker and easily put a down payment on like an Edinburgh flat. You know, the desk is enormous, the room is perfect, like everything is there for you to be able to come out with like world-class recordings, but the amount of just shit decisions being made. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of really cool stuff that came out, and a lot of friends who have done some incredible stuff. But as I say, like, the amount of just shite recordings because of like shit decisions that people made in like these literally perfect studios. That like somebody with good decisions, a good ear, a clear idea of what they're trying to do, can do a better job with like a little interface and a couple of 57s than an idiot can do with, you know, an idiot. That's a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, which is kind of like the kind of bedrock philosophy of the Owl Shed, is essentially make each step as good as it can be up until the point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And then, so,
Because
you know,
it is quite a modest wee studio that you have.
yeah,
you know,
it's not flashy. It's not like, it's just, you know, we're trying to make, you know, the certainly if it's drums that we're doing, which it usually is, that, you know, it's like good parts on drums that are tuned well, with mics that at least aren't pointing off into oblivion, and, you know, the room is good. Like, the stairwell is money, to be honest. Like, the stairwell
stairwell
fucking
sound.
great.
I remember that.
It's cash money, bro.
But other than that, you know, it's just it's modest. Like, I think that is a really good word for it. And yeah, like, that was a thing that was directly informed by experiences at Berkeley, hearing sessions of like, oh wow, this is gonna sound really, really cool, this is gonna sound amazing, and then it coming back and being like, what?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, how?
You had 60 grand's worth of mics pointing at me and it sounds like this? Like, yeah. So yeah, with that knowledge, it kind of like gave me that confidence of like, right, okay, well, I can do, so long as I have some base, like a good idea of what I'm doing and how to get the good stuff. And obviously there's a lot of trial and error. But, you know, essentially, you know, we've gotten to the point where, you know, as we said earlier, like, we've chucked off drum stems to Forrester Saville without revisions. Like, that's I feel like that's a big badge of honor for the Shed.
Yeah, we've had stuff mixed by Adam Bentley from Art Deco. Where else have we been sending?
I mean, just the fact that you, like, Jack himself, like, gets incredible fucking results out of our drum stems.
Oh god, some of these new mixes there.
What was that bullshit you sent me last night? It was one of yours.
Which
It was that one with the mental drum fill at the start, and I was listening to
one
like,
iTracks, yeah, Impulse Brew.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
just, like,
sent me
listen
that.
to
It was
this.
great.
Yeah.
It was fucking
where it
amazing.
sounds like it's so good. It's like, you know, like, out of the Shed, Jack is getting some of like my favorite ways of me hearing myself play.
It was like one of those ones where it's like I've probably been quite adamant that Disposable should record at Owl Shed for fucking ages, but I think I needed to kind of prove to the boys Maybe not so much you, Tucker. I think you probably had, but also maybe you because you're a bit like, well, unless I know it's going to be really, really good, I'm not going to like want to take the risk. There's certain
I
things
think as
where you'll
well,
do
it's
that.
true. It's like I'd never been there before, and I don't know, when it came to the album, I know Chamber Studio. I'm like, right, here's the place. It's a bit expensive, but cool. It's a great studio. But once I'd done the what's Sam's band?
It was
called?
Awake and Afraid.
Awake and Afraid. I was like,
Awake and
all
Afraid,
right.
which is also available on Spotify, Bandcamp, not
That was a
SoundCloud,
premium
because it's the
couple
year of our Lord
evenings.
2020.
But like, that was the time I was like, oh, these guys they're legit. Like, you know what I mean? But
Awake
I
and
think
Afraid
it-
was a great
I was
experience.
maybe a bit skeptical, but nah.
I think
coming
it
out
took
of that,
it took a wee bit for like the shed, and like I think also for Jack. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm just way off the fucking mark here, Jack. But like from my point of view, it took a little bit of time for myself with the room, with the setup, with what we've got. Like, but Jack and I's working relationship, which I guess we've been doing now for like properly like a year and a bit, but sort of kind of for about a year and a half. 2 years? 2 years actually, fuck me. But these things to kind of come together to produce the results, like that little, like the top of the pyramid, which is like the finished track. Like it took us, we're still learning obviously, but that time to build the confidence for, right, okay, we can produce these results, we can produce really fucking good sounding shit with, as Liam, as you said, like with pretty modest stuff.
Was that when you were starting? Was that like an intentional decision, just to be like, I don't want to say like you were going into it going like, I want it to not be like pristine studio. I want to just take what we have and make
I think
something right.
The approach I took was very Spartan, like to nothing is more expensive than it needs to be.
All right, okay, yeah.
Well, it comes back to that diminishing returns point. We could throw like 5k out on like Apollo interfaces or a massive physical desk or something, and then start using hardware. But the quality now that you can capture on mid-tier audio interfaces is stupidly good. And then the way that we're going about treating the room acoustically is we're thinking tactically. So for drums, where the drums are set up in the room and where we know cymbals and things are going to be, we're thinking, where's our first reflections going to be for the things like the overheads? And then how many bass traps do we need to throw up to control this room a bit? How much acoustic foam are we going to need to chuck up on these walls to make the room still have some degree of character but not mental? And then the goalposts are changing all the time as well. Like when we first started this, we were using Andrew's M series with some really old ass skins on it, and now we're at a point where we're using like the mixes we've been doing recently have been based off using his Saturn V kit with fresh code heads. Thanks. But yeah, suddenly like it's about source and it's about performance more than anything. Like however much of a sense of the room you want to get in your recordings is dependent on how you utilize your room mics. We've got things like the stairwell for that stupid explosive reverberant sound, and that's there as an optional channel that can be brought up. But from the go, if you're hitting hard and you're hitting clean and the drums are in tune, as Andrew was saying, and the drums are got nice fresh heads on and everything sounds great when you're sat at the kit, chances are it's coming through on the other end sounding as good as you think it's going to be.
I mean, we'd rather... Sorry,
Yeah.
on you go. Sorry, do finish.
Well, and the mics we're using are fairly like industry standard now at this point. I mean, we're using Sennheiser E60 watts on the toms, fours. Four, Jack, for fuck's sake. But then stuff like, you know, the kick drum, when I was doing early mixes for any of the things we've done, it's been like, oh, we have to find that sweet spot with that one vocal mic.
I know.
Kick sounding not complete shit. But now, like, we've got our kick condenser inside the kick drum. We've got a kick dynamic mic on the fucking snare, on the kick head, and then we've got another guy off axis somewhere picking up all the thump of it as well. Like, it's getting a bit silly.
There's been a good because I came into the equation with a certain amount of knowledge and a certain amount of just twatting about essentially recording my own drums, and that was those kind of like steps of confidence. Like when I put out one of the first the first Leviathan Owl stuff that I recorded all by myself except for a couple of solos. I sent it off to my good friend Sam, who plays guitars in a band called Aviations. He's essentially American Jack. Just like he's just really fucking good at like everything he does. I really hope that Jack and Sam get to meet at some point.
All I can hear in my head is like Estelle, but singing American Jack.
Yeah, so I sent all that shit off to Sam, and the stuff that I got back was incredible. So I was like, right, okay, well, obviously I have the ability, I have the gear, I have this shit to be able to make drums sound like this. So that is there. So then when Jack and I started working together, I already had a certain amount of confidence that I am able to achieve a certain level of results. And then when just working in the context of, as I say, like the working relationship between Jack and I and the way that kind of, just observing it and seeing the way that it does work. And also then within the physical confines of the studio, how can we do it? What can we do? It's nice because it seems to just continually reaffirm that the philosophy that we are working with is working, essentially. That it's producing good results. It's producing, one of the things that I was like, I'd say from like right at the start was essentially to produce enviable results. We want a sound that other people hear and think, I want that sound. That's the way that I hear. That's the sound that I hear my music with.
Yeah.
So
I'd say you definitely achieve that.
Yes, just about to say.
And that's been like the goal, is we want to sound enviable.
I find that quite, like, there's been a few, I've seen this sponsored post going around recently on Facebook of an Edinburgh-based recording studio. I can't remember what the hell its name was, but it was advertising itself as having this like wall of sound mix. And I was like, okay, cool, let's listen to this. And it was just like limiter turned up full blast. I was like, oh Jesus, no, what are you doing? But yeah, and then that gets you thinking. It's like when we're churning out mixes like this, it's like,
I mean, it's like,
it can be done well.
I've seen the stuff that kind of comes out at the level that you guys are kind of at, and you're just miles better. Not only are you miles better, but you're just easier to work with, man. And it's
which
just
is funny because we're both despicable humans.
Yeah,
but in many ways, that's what you need. You need a despicable human to really
Just
truly
awful
understand someone that another despicable carnival dunce of a musician can relate to. So it
That's
kind
when
of
you know
makes
you're
sense.
onto something.
It's the difference of like, if I was sat working with a guy playing drums and there was like a million things going wrong and there was like a ton of bleed coming through on the snare. It's the difference of knowing, like, is it anything that I've done, looking at the setup that I've done, that is the reason why that's happening, or is there a way I can communicate to this guy, because I know it's a human thing, and go like, right, we can either bring the snare mic in closer and try and create a bit more separation, or do you think you can just fucking tan it?
You think you could just maybe hit the fucking thing harder?
But I mean, that's, I guess, like, trust is, I mean, certainly from my point of view, working with you, Jack. Like, trust is such a big thing in that I trust Jack's ear. I trust that if Jack is saying something to me, and this was one of the reasons that I like the genesis of the Owl Shed becoming what it is now, like Jack and I working together in this capacity, essentially was on my 29th birthday. Start of 2019. Jack was ran at my house for like a birthday party. The very next day I was going to view the Owl Shed, like the studio, the premises, and like I was telling Jack about it, and then this conversation literally was just like, well, do you want to like go splitsies on it? We'll both do it. It'll be a laugh.
All right, so you were the one initially going to buy it anyway.
Well, I've not. We rent it.
Sorry, buy is the wrong word, but yeah.
Yeah, initially I rented space at Summerhall, but that was less than ideal because for the same amount that I was paying, like the room that I was renting was also shared by a whole bunch of other drummers, and the kit in the room was not of like super duper high standard. So if I wanted to record my own kit, I had to haul that kit out, bring in my own stuff, set up all my mics, and that in itself would take like a fucking hour.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to do the session and then tear all that shit down. And then reset up the other kit so that some other guy could come in like the next day and play this other kit.
It's because like that room is a good room, but like it's a bit of a faff, and you've made your room sound, I mean, arguably so much better.
It's cleaner. There's so much junk lying around in that Summerhall room.
I mean, because it's a practice room. That's it. It's like it's a really nice sounding practice room, which Mikey from Tone Garden uses to record, and he gets good sounds out of it. But like, I mean, like it's a bit cluttered.
But so like, I was looking for another space so that I could just have a kit set up at all times, and I could record, I could practice whenever the fuck I wanted to. And as we were chatting about before with like the COVID stuff, and like certainly my situation now, I attribute as a result of a certain amount of insecurities and neuroses. That's like a bunch of them. It's just I want to be able to work whenever the fuck I want, which thanks to a certain downstairs neighbor has been shot in the nutsack. I can work almost when I want, so long as it's not between the hours of like 10 and 5:30.
Essential fucking service that we need at the moment.
So
it says a lot. It says a lot about like musicians, not essential. People who sell music or like sell musical instruments, not essential. Oh well, see you later. Now I can like play drums all the time.
But the fucking anyway. So that aside. That's kind of like when Jack and I were discussing like what the stuff that we wanted to do. There was also, it's fine, he probably won't see it. There was another friend of mine who
I don't think he has a computer.
Who I don't think another friend of mine who wanted to get in on the Owl Shed, who I think was at that birthday party, who I was kind of like keeping at a bit of an arm's length because. And this is where that sort of trust thing, there's an imbalance there. Like with Jack, if Jack says like the snare is, do something with the snare, I don't know. He's not said that, but if Jack says something,
I've told you to tune it down.
Whatever Jack says goes.
I've not. Like if Jack says something, I know that he's saying it because it's coming from like a productive and constructive place.
I mean, I always feel like that when we work on vocals with when I work on vocals with Jack, because like Jack will have like a whole bunch of like really good ideas, and as much as you can tune stuff and you can like make sure that it's completely in pitch. It's more just like but like for the context of the take that you're going for, just actually go and just do it well. So then we've got like a nice good basis to work from.
The term is sass. I always say give it more sass.
It's always sass, yeah. It's always sass. But then it's like you're always thinking ahead towards like, okay, well, that's a good melody line. Do we want to harmonize that? Do we want to then like layer those harmonies? How are we going to then put those harmonies in? And it's like, well, if you're going to do that take, I need this one to work so I can then make all of these ideas that I want to then do work. So,
I mean, having said that, as much as I trust Jack, I don't always agree with him. Is the thing.
I mean, I'm the same.
But the other guy who wanted to kind of get in on the Owl Shed because he wanted to do like his own recordings and all the rest of it was not one of those guys. Like
right, okay.
Just it would working together was like as a human, I love him. He's a lovely, lovely human. But like in a kind of working capacity, just things didn't gel quite as well in that there wasn't that like that trust of I guess like just that trust wasn't there in that sense.
If you're gonna like go into business with people as well, you got to feel comfortable with them.
Yeah, like I mean, and obviously I mean like Jack and I going into business, like I'm doing this because I don't want to do business. I want to play drums.
Yeah, totally.
And that's kind of. I mean, obviously we're still learning. We're still kind of like pushing ahead and seeing what the fuck happens. And obviously, like the longer this COVID shit continues, is. I mean, the shed is essentially that's like my main like thing this year is like trying to do projects and trying to have the shed fucking succeed or at least not fucking die.
I don't think it will, If anything, it seems like it'll fully rake in some. I wouldn't say business is probably the wrong word, but a bit of renown, I guess.
I just want to
get the word out.
Want to keep doing shit.
It's low maintenance enough where in its current form it could just survive forever in its current state. I think where it's interesting is as it develops where it can grow to. That's where it will be a little more exciting and daunting.
I mean, essentially the first goal of the shed is to be able to wean Jack off his day job.
Yeah.
That's like the first the most valuable thing the shed could do is to be able to pay for Jack.
But that's a scary step. I mean, it's like I mean, all the musos, man. It's like that's the dream is to kind of like, well, can I stop working this actual job? And it's a big scary one. It's a big scary goal to have. It does, yeah. Stages is probably like phases, which is meeting with the kind of way that we're dealing with a pandemic. But like it's like you got to wean yourself off. But like it's hard, and you've got to have like steps in place. Really, don't you?
Yeah, because there's so many active projects at the moment. Whereas, if everything I was working on at the moment was a paid project, I would not have the time to fit it into a normal work week. So that's where that transition would start to happen. If I had like work that I was doing every single night and it was all paid, that's where I'd probably be going, right, I need to lose a day so that I can spend a whole day doing that stuff. So yeah, that's going to be the first move, is at least going down to 4 days work so that a day is a shed day, that kind of thing. That'll be the next step.
I mean, that sounds like a plan, to be fair.
Yeah.
You've just then got to know that like the money that you're losing from your day at your actual job is then going to be coming from all the music stuff that you're then doing.
That's where the tricky bit is, because it's creating that regular flow of work while it's brutal, so that when the time's taken off and the income is there, it then works. But I couldn't do it just now. I probably couldn't justify dropping a day. Couldn't afford it.
Well, no one's going to work anyway. That's fair. Anyway, we've been talking for like I don't even want to know how many hours, and that's probably
that 2
about
hours?
that's probably about as many hours as people who listen to a thrash metal band that don't have any music to release and can't, will probably tolerate. So, I mean, if
Still
everybody's listening
thank you.
who's gotten this far, thank you very much. It's been really nice actually talking to Andrew properly for a while, because I've not seen you since you recorded drums on my solo album. I don't mean
nice
to plug
meeting
him.
you, by the way, Andrew.
Yeah.
It was nice to chat. That was cool.
It was pretty sick, and it's also nice to just see my boy Jack's face. It's also interesting, I find, because it's like I think it's a different scene that you guys are a part of, or at least you're kind of coming from. It's like the kind of progressive metal, kind of prog, kind of rock scene that kind of has like more of an online autonomy and online presence with each other from across the globe, rather than the kind of local metal scene that me and Tucker are now kind of a part of.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to kind of, I don't know, like bring people in and kind of like mix the worlds up, because like I for sure think there's a whole bunch of like what's the word here? There's a lot of advantage, and it's like it just breaks down further musical like kind of things, because as much as scenes are great, it's like we're all just musicians. We've all got different skills and stuff, and I don't know. I just find it really interesting. We're all just carnival dances, man. Just on our little wheelies, just juggling all these things with our little fezzes on. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, everybody. Probably in like the description, or if this is a video, I don't know if things will pop up with relevant information as we talk about it. But yeah, these boys are really talented. I love them very much. Tune in next week for some content, probably. I don't know.
Can you make a supercut of every time Jax is like fucking?
One more for good luck.
I love how Liam just the entire time has been like low key flexing, just drinking with one hand every once in a while. Just
do the Trump thing where like drink with one hand and just shoot it across.
This is like I don't have anything to gulp apart from like what's left of like a Mr. Muscle window clean.
Oh, get that down you. That'll be good.
I really don't think I'm going to spray that in my mouth. Maybe not.
I don't think that's a good idea.
On that note, thanks for watching. We'll see you or hear you next time.
How do we sign
Cheers.
out? Does it just stop?
It just kind of stops.
And then it stops.
Sopranos ending.
And
Yeah.
then
Thin.
Yeah.